Hello, everyone, and welcome to Between Two Studs. I'm Alex Studd.
And I'm Ron Studd.
And Ron, for episode 56, we have today Mr. Terry Wilson. Terry, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Hello, Ron. Hello, Alex.
Welcome, welcome. All right, so this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about sports. And part of this segues into, I understand that you are actually looking to start your own podcast related to sports. But before we get into that, let's get a little bit past, I think, one of the difficult points for a lot of people. Some people are like, nah, I'm not a sports person, and some people are sports people. And I think that's a bit of a difficult thing. Yeah.
Ron.
What's
you
up?
barely got started, and you skipped taking the shot of Malort. You just jumped right over it.
Well, let's get into that right now, and then we'll go back to that. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
We can do it. I mean, yeah, you know what? So one of the things that we do with our podcast is our sponsor is actually Jeppson's Malort. And unfortunately, Terry, I didn't get a chance to get you a little bit of Malort before the show, but Alex and I love to offer up a toast to our guests of Malort, and we will offer this up to you. Cheers.
In honor of
Thank
you,
you,
Terry, and to the official spirit of Between Two Studs, Chicago's delicacy, Jeppson's Malort.
Cheers.
Fantastic. We're going to get you some of this, Terry. But,
Yes,
but Ron, I'm sorry. I know you were on a roll, but come on. We can't forget. That's a very important
You're right.
every episode.
Oh, you're right. I mean, I do have the shirt on, though, so that counts for something. Yeah. But, yes, a little gaffe on my part. So, we were kind of getting into a little bit with sports. So there's a lot of people who are maybe not so into sports, and some people are. And I think the world of sports is such a really all-encompassing, it's a massive thing, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. What do you think is the secret to getting into sports, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I mean, for me, my dad got me into sports when I was very young. I think one of the positives of sports is you learn the team component. Everybody's not going to be a superstar. Everybody's not going to hit 50 home runs. Some people you just get up there and bunt and that's your job. Some people you come in and that's a baseball reference. Some people, maybe you just come out and block if you're playing football and that's your job. It's okay. The good thing about sports is it teaches you the components of a team, and that is the goal is to win or whatever your objective is. So for me, I got into it very young because of, my father. He got me into baseball and football and everything else. And so, yeah, that's the benefit to sports for me is just the teamwork, and you can take those skills and apply them in real life to whatever you're going to do.
And it's interesting, Terry. I mean, I agree with everything you said. But, one of the things, a lot of people I know, they're like, oh, it's sports. These athletes getting paid a lot of money. It's a waste of time. They're just hurting each other. And one of the things I'll always say, well, we could argue it is a waste of time. However, we live in the world where a lot of times people don't want to talk to their fellow neighbor. I don't want to know about you. You don't want to know about me. And for whatever reason, I always said this, there are two things that you can talk to a total stranger about, and it's socially acceptable. I used to live in Boston, and I'd take the Green Line from my home to Back Bay every day for work. And if I mention anything outside of these two things, people would say, what the hell are you talking to me about? Why are you talking to me? Leave me alone. There was two things that were socially acceptable: weather and sports.
Absolutely.
Those are the only two things that are acceptable. Anything else, leave me alone. And so to me, teamwork is important, but there's also a level of the human condition of camaraderie, of companionship with your fellow man or woman, even if you would never interact with them otherwise. It's like we have this thing to unite on.
That's a great point. I remember when the Falcons went to the Super Bowl in '98. I hated my neighbor, and my neighbor hated me. We hated each other. It was an equal relationship.
Yeah.
But the minute that field goal went through and the Falcons went to the Super Bowl, he and I were celebrating together. And that was the only time that happened. Like, other than that, I don't like that guy or whatever. But it was a uniting factor. Like, we came out and we're screaming and yelling and jumping and running in the streets. And you're right, it brings total strangers. A lot of times when I'm out, I'll wear Falcons or Hawks or Bulldogs or Braves or whatever, and people
Mm-hmm.
will randomly start conversations. Oh, what do you think they're going to do this year? So I agree with you. It is, I guess, one of those common denominators that brings people together. Agreed.
Yeah. And you know what? For good or for bad, that's just the reality, right? And
Yeah.
so I will always defend sports, even to the biggest naysayers. I will say, name something other than weather that unites people. Certainly don't want to talk about politics with a random person next to
Oh
you,
no, that's
or
polarizing.
religion,
Yes.
Nope.
right? But
Yes.
sports, you can have common ground, and it allows for fruitful discussion. And honestly, the other thing that it does is a level of pride about where you're from.
Oh yeah. Oh
Mm-hmm.
You
yeah.
know
Yeah.
whatever it is that it's representing. Because at the end of the day, the sport is representing more than the actual game. It
Right.
is, right? Whether
Right.
it's Atlanta or a region of the world or a country, right? The
Yes.
Olympics, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah. And I think there's a component of sports, there's a David and Goliath opponent. You know what I mean? Let's say a team is not supposed to beat a really great team that's had a great season, and you have a playoff series, and the smaller team wins, or the team that's not expected to win. I think on some level, we all identify with that. We all have gone through
Mm-hmm.
adversity where we weren't expected to prevail and we did. And I think that resonates with people. I think that more than anything else resonates with people. So I would agree with you.
And one other thing too, I'd kind of even go with that too, is even if you're not into sports, I mean, there's always kind of the joke about people even watching the Super Bowl who have no interest in the game, but they're interested in the commercials, they're interested in the food, like all of the tailgating and other things that go on related to games. It also is another unifying component for people, even if you're not into the game itself,
Terry, I think
right?
we lost him.
Yeah, I think we did. I think we
Okay.
did.
Do you hear me now?
We do. We hear
Yeah.
you now.
You blamed me
Okay.
earlier on my ISP. It's clearly your ISP.
Okay. Well, the important part.
So start over again. Just say
Oh, okay.
you'll just edit it out. So
Yeah.
you're responding to what Terry just said.
Yeah. So one of the things too, I think that's also important that, it's kind of a joke with the Super Bowl is that there's a lot of people who don't even watch the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who are more
Mm-hmm.
interested in either the tailgating or they're interested in, the food or the commercials, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that there is a certain component too of here is a perfectly acceptable reason to get together with your neighbors, your friends,
Mm-hmm.
to really kind of watch something and be a part of something that's maybe bigger. And
Yes.
you know what? Your team isn't always going to win. Certainly as a Bills fan, we know that. But there is a certain level of just community that does develop with watching those games with other friends and fans, right?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. This past Super Bowl, I think the halftime show was one of the greatest I'd ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was legendary, right? Like my daughter, my youngest daughter, loves the halftime show. She doesn't care about the game, but she loves the halftime
Mm-hmm.
show. And she was like, "Dad, it's gonna be Rihanna," and I was like, "Yeah, whatever." But we sat down and watched it, and I was amazed just at the show, the different levels they had, the fact that all of the dancers were syncopated together, and they were in 50 feet up in the air doing all these dances. It was great. It was great. So I would agree.
Well,
Yes.
and it's come to show you how different the NFL is today.
Yes.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
funny,
Yes.
you watch a Super Bowl rerun from I'd say before Super Bowl 22.
Yes.
It was marching bands doing the
Mm-hmm.
halftime show,
Mm-hmm.
right? You didn't
Mm-hmm.
have this over the top build up, but I think it's become that. And a lot of people, I even hear every year, they say Super Bowl Monday, meaning the day after, should be a
Mm-hmm.
holiday in this
Mm-hmm.
country.
Oh, agreed.
You know,
Especially if your
and
team wins. Yeah.
oh yeah, well, I've
Yeah.
always said, every manager I've ever had, Terry, always said on like my first day with them, like, "Hello, nice to meet you. Looking forward to working for you." I always say, "Hey, by the way, before we go any further, I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. If the Buffalo Bills are ever in the Super Bowl," and up until about a couple of years ago, they would always just laugh right there. Right? They'd start laughing. I go, "Why do you know? They ever lose in the Super Bowl, you'll hear from me on Wednesday. If they win,
oh God,
you'll hear from me the following
Friday. Yes, yeah.
And
You know what?
I don't mean I'll be at work. I mean
Right.
you'll hear from me.
You'll hear from me.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
I got some things to do. I got to light myself on fire and jump through a table. I got things to do.
Agree. Hey, look, let me tell you, man. I've told my boss, if the Falcons ever win the Super Bowl, don't look for me for a week. Don't even look for me. And we have that understanding that if they go, now if they lose, I'll probably be in that Wednesday. But if they win, just go ahead and dock me the days. I'm not coming because, I mean, that could be a once in a lifetime thing. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I mean, think about
Less
it.
than a once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
I live 2 miles from Wrigley right now.
Okay.
And it took them 108 years.
Yep.
Right? I mean, think about that. That's less than once in a lifetime. You know, I mean, I got to say, in all of sports, Terry, I'm not an overly emotional guy. Right. But I got to say, there was a time, I didn't even live in Chicago at the time. I had no connection to Chicago. But I remember when they won the World Series. I think it was 2016.
Yes.
25th, somewhere around there.
No, it's 2016. You're right.
And I remember hearing on the news the next day after they won that there was an old man who listened to Game 7 when they beat the Cleveland, at the time, Indians, now Guardians. And he listened on the radio at a graveyard with his dead father, right? Just listened in a chair in front of his father's tombstone and listened to the game on the radio. And I got chills thinking, wow, this is an old man who loved this game with his father. His father never got to see the Cubs win. And here, this old man, that's what he wanted to do with Game 7. That was his way of connecting with his father.
That's beautiful.
I mean, how does that not give you chills?
Beautiful. No, I mean, you're not human if it doesn't. But that's look. When the Braves won it in 21, I did tear up. I'm not gonna lie. When the Bulldogs won it, however, I probably felt closer to my dad. My dad passed 3 years ago, April 13th. But I probably felt closer to my dad than ever because it had been I think the last time the Bulldogs had won it was in 1980, right? And they won it, and it was I mean it's tangible. You can feel it. You know, I think the first thing I said to my brother, I pissed him off because I woke him up because he works really early, and I was like, "Hey man, get up, whatever." I'm yelling and screaming. He's like, "My wife's sleeping." I'm like, "I don't care, get her up too." But yeah, I felt closer to my dad. I did, honestly. I did. So that's a real thing. That's another thing about sports is it is passed down oftentimes from father to son to whomever. And the beautiful thing about it is when you have a franchise such as the Cubs, the Red Sox, hopefully one day the Falcons, the Bills, and they do win. Oh, believe you me, those of us that have gone on before, they're going to be a part of the celebration. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely it does.
Yeah.
So Terry, I'm excited that we're really just scratching the surface here. I know I don't know if Ron mentioned it earlier or not. I forget, but I know you're interested in starting a podcast.
Yes.
That is all about sports, and this is so much fun. I want to get into what you want to cover with particularly on your podcast.
Yes.
But one of the things that you brought up earlier that I do want to touch on again, because we touched on it and then we kind of blazed over it. I want to go back. Is when you talked about David and Goliath.
Yes.
Right. And to me, that is so fundamentally, that is sports, right? I think this is something this is what Ron says all the time. Ron goes, and Ron, I'm paraphrasing, so tell me if I'm wrong. But he likes to say something like, no one watches a movie, goes to, spends $15 at the movie theaters to see the team that was favored number one all year long and had already won 20 championships win again. No one wants to see that.
Correct.
Right. And what's interesting is everyone will agree. Everyone will agree. I don't care if you're a Yankees fan, a Cowboys fan. Everyone will agree. We love the David and Goliath story.
Yes.
However, there is so much money in sports now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is gone like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, how do the Davids even have a chance? Whether it's in college sports,
Mm-hmm.
or even small market cities
Yes.
that are in professional sports. I mean, to me, this is for me a deep concern of the future of sports in this
Yes.
country. Is
Yes.
there's so much money that how many times more are we going to see a St. Bonaventure University,
Mm-hmm.
2,400 students win a
Mm-hmm.
national championship? Is that
Mm-hmm.
ever
Mm-hmm.
possible again?
Uh, it's possible. Is it probable? Mm, I think, to be honest with you, the most fair and equitable sports would probably be the ones with a salary cap. So I would say the NFL is probably your most equitable. In other words, okay, you've got X amount of dollars to do whatever you need to do, and each year it goes up, but it's still a set limit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, last year you had Kansas City. You have basically different teams every year. Baseball, in comparison or in contrast to that, is the polar opposite, right? So at baseball, I think the Mets this year spent $393 million. That's at the top. At the bottom is probably a team like the Pirates or the Royals, and they may be at 50 or 60 million.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And what that means is, just kind of transitioning a little bit, if you're the Royals, number one, you got to hit on all your draft picks. You got to hit
Mm-hmm.
on all your draft picks, and you have to bring them up at the same time. And you understand that you probably have a 4, maybe 5 year window where you have to strike, and you have to do it all over again, because at 5 years now you have to re-sign these guys,
And you
and
can't
the
afford
money,
the good
and you
ones.
can't
Yeah.
afford to, right? So what that
Yeah.
means is now you have to trade them the year before, or maybe the year of, that they're going to become free agencies. You got to trade them and get more younger talent, and then do it all over again. And if I was a Pirates fan, I'd be frustrated. To be honest with you, they're doing well this year, but the last time they were in the playoffs was 1992, which was how many years ago? What, 30?
Wow.
Right.
That's a long time,
Wow.
right? As a matter
So
of fact,
how do we how I mean I think that's the tricky part, right? I
yes.
mean, where a team like the Yankees, you know what, you goofed up in that draft, whatever, don't worry,
Hmm.
you can buy the best players this offseason.
Correct.
And I do worry that at a certain point is you take Major League Baseball. Is it just going to be the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Cubs? I mean, like, why else watch if your team never has a chance? I mean, of course, everyone remembers Moneyball,
Right.
but
Mm-hmm.
people often forget he didn't win, and he's still
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
there, and they still
Correct.
haven't won.
Correct.
Right? It
Correct.
doesn't matter how brilliant he was. Didn't matter how outside the box he was thinking. He still could not win
Correct.
because the
Correct.
game is rigged.
Yeah. I think so. A couple of things, right? The team to keep your eyes on this year is the Tampa Bay Rays, for a plethora of reasons. Number one, they have the best record in the league right now. But number two, they are one of the lower tier teams. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
which means
Mm-hmm.
they coach very well. They develop very well. And if they win the World Series this year, now that changes the narrative, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
then again, you can win. Now, to your point, the A's have never won. And to be honest with you, I don't even think the A's are going to remain in Oakland
No,
in the next
they've already
5 years.
announced
Right,
they're
correct.
moving to Vegas.
Yeah, there you go. There
Wow.
you go. Yeah. So one of the, to your point, Alex, the few teams that are left like that will probably be Kansas City, Pittsburgh, the Marlins, um, and yeah, Oakland, and Oakland's moving. So it just, I would say Oakland and the Marlins probably move, because nobody goes to games in Florida. I don't know what it is,
No.
or not. They don't go to see the Marlins. I can't speak for the Rays,
Well, they're not.
but
No, they're not. They're historically not good. But I mean,
yeah,
at attendance, right? But I think
yeah,
that's in part because when it's 85 and sunny out, wouldn't
yeah.
you rather go to the beach?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, without a
you know,
doubt.
But so that's I think that's just something that I'm super interested in, and over the next, let's say, 10 to 20 years, because the amount of
Yes.
money going into sports is not going down. right?
No.
And now in the
No.
NCAA, with the introduction of the NIL, where players can actually partner with businesses, whereas before the NCAA players, you could not affiliate, you could not make money outside of playing the game of basketball. You couldn't market yourself,
which was
you
wrong.
had to wait. Yeah, and I agree with that sentiment that players, hey, if you're bringing in a university millions of dollars, why can't you get a sponsorship with a local car dealership?
Agreed.
But what does that do, Terry, to the St. Bonaventures of the world when it comes to basketball programs in the middle of nowhere? Because listen, if I'm a student, right, and I go, hey, I love both these coaches. One is playing. One is at the University of Texas at Austin, and one is in a town that no one has ever heard of, in the middle of nowhere, where there is no economic development, and no one will be able to sponsor me, and I'll never get on national television. How on earth are you going to recruit that? How are you going to recruit that kid?
Simple answer is you're not. That's tough. You know, that it to your point, it just became a whole lot difficult for these schools in that situation.
I just hope we don't end up in 20 years from now where March Madness is Goliath versus Goliath.
Yeah.
Duke versus Kentucky. All right.
Yeah. I don't care about Duke versus
Kentucky. I don't care about that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think a part of the mystique of that tournament is there's always maybe one or two. Now, to your point, those few are maybe they're going to become even fewer. But I think a component of 64 teams in that tournament, you're always going to have that David that's going to sneak through. They may not win it all, but they'll at least make it interesting. And that's why we watch sports. So I don't think that'll go away, but I do think it will become a lot more difficult, to your point. I mean, if you are a kid, from certain households that don't have the means, you're going to go where it's going to be most beneficial to you. And that's just real. It's real life.
And no one can blame that kid for doing that.
Not at all. No. So,
But, it's kind of interesting, too, talking about this and talking about Oakland, right, where you're talking about the players going to where there's the most money, right? But it's also interesting because you look at what Oakland has done historically. Teams go in and out, right? And I think that's kind of one of those interesting things. Right. But it's interesting because
they lost the Raiders.
And now they're going to be losing.
They lost the A's.
Yeah.
And you could argue Golden State used to play in Oakland. Well, now they don't. They play in San Francisco.
Yeah. And that's sad because I think the A's are one of the few teams to win 3 world championships in the 70s. I'm sorry. 3 back-to-back world championships in the 70s. I think the Yankees did. The Yankees did do it in the late 90s, early 2000s. But I think the A's prior to that had done it. I think the Rays did it. The Reds did it. They won 2, and then a couple years went by, and I think they may have won a few. But I think the A's prior to the Yankees were the last team to win 3 in a row. You could check the math on that. But it's just sad when, the economics of an area determine that. But yeah, I mean, if you've ever watched the A's game in the last 15 years, there are not a lot of people there. They're just not. It's a huge stadium, and it's like an echo in there. Same thing for Marlins. You can go to a Marlins game, probably pull up the day of, and you can get some pretty nice seats. You can probably get a suite because nobody's going. Literally, nobody's going. It's like the Braves in the late 70s. I love my Braves, but they were god awful, right? You couldn't give Braves tickets away in the late 70s, and that's been the Marlins' existence for a long time. So it's unfortunate, but to your point, I mean, it's a business, right? And you can only bleed money so long before. And you know what? Hey, maybe the A's will go to Vegas and they'll have money and they'll have some success. And at least they don't exist in Oakland anymore, but they exist in their franchise, and maybe the Oaklanders can in some way be connected to that. I don't know. I've never been through that. You know what I mean? But maybe they feel kinship to it.
But you bring up an interesting point, and this is the transition we're going to have, which is, I remember at the beginning of the season, just of the baseball season, just whatever, a month and change ago, and they said the average, and don't quote me on this, right? I'm paraphrasing. They said they went through all the major sports, and they said the average age of a fan in the United States, and it was like NBA 27, NFL 31. Baseball, it was like 49.
Yeah.
And the way I read that one way, Tim. The way I read that was people who like baseball are dying.
Yeah.
Right? Like they are getting older. They are the older generation. And so with the exception of a handful of organizations, attendance is going to continue to diminish.
Yeah.
They're going to try all sorts of things, right? I mean, like this year, they introduced the shorter the pitch count. And they've introduced getting rid of the designated hitter in both leagues now. But how long can you do this before people just say, listen, and this is really what I wanted to get to.
Yeah.
Is baseball really America's pastime anymore? Is it still the number one sport? Because I think most people would say American football is, and it's not even close.
I would agree. Yeah. Hands down, it's football. Hands down. I couldn't get my son to play baseball. I begged him to play baseball. He just didn't want to. And he was like, I don't want to, Dad. It's boring.
What do you think
love baseball.
What happened between our parents' generation and our generation where baseball, I would say, is in trouble?
Yeah. I think, number one, if you're going to advance in baseball, it is not cheap. And it is not for a typical household, right? If you're going to play baseball, you have to play travel ball. You're playing year round. You got to have bats and uniforms and cleats and play. And you can probably spend $10,000 a year doing that. And the average household may not have $10,000 a year. I know with my son and him playing basketball, I probably put out about $4,000 to $5,000 a year, right? And that's basketball. Baseball, you could double that, and that's not even. We're not even talking about the specificity. So, it's. I'm not saying it's a rich man's game. It's not golf, but it is not for the underserved communities, right? It's definitely not. The days of stickball are gone, right? So
I think that's clear, though. I mean, what is the cheapest sport on earth? Soccer. All you need is a ball, right? And here around the world, that is universal. I mean, the United States is obviously an exception. It is the number one sport. And I think you're right. It's the accessibility to the sport that anyone can just buy a couple $1 ball, and that's all you need.
Yes.
You can make your own goalposts.
Yes, absolutely. You can say the same thing for basketball. All you need is a ball and a
hoop.
Goal and a hoop, and you're there. In some cases, maybe not even a hoop. Maybe remember the milk crates, maybe those old-fashioned milk bucks or whatever. But you could, you know what I mean. But again, to that point, baseball is going to take money. So right off the bat, you're going to take away a certain percentage of the population. You add that in the fact that baseball at some points is stagnant. It's still. You add to the fact that baseball is typically a game that's passed down from fathers to sons. And I'm not getting socioeconomic on you, but you can kind of see where I'm going in that's how we can arrive to this point here. Football is a faster moving game. It's action. We're Americans. We like big hits. It is what it is.
Yep.
We like the forward pass. I mean, I can see that. It's unfortunate. And to your point, Alex, I don't see it really getting any better for baseball. I don't.
And the trickiest part, too, that people forget about is that you have the pyramid system, right? Where you have historically the Major League Ball Club making so much money that they would subsidize the AAA ball club, the AA ball club, and the single A ball club. Right? Because those clubs are not making a profit. They never have.
Not at all.
That whole idea was two things, right? You had two goals. One, you nurture your players, right? And then number two, you nurture your fans, right?
Yeah.
The little 7-year-old Jimmy who wants to go learn the game goes with his father in rural Georgia to watch a minor league game. And then, I want to go to a major league ball game. It sort of warms you up. Well, now all of a sudden in the next 20 years, are we going to see where minor league baseball dies because the major league ball clubs aren't making enough money to fund them? And then what ends up happening is it's a spiral event, because then all of a sudden, once you lose that stepping stone, well, then what do? You push kids up to the major leagues too early, and then the talent, the level, the quality of the players diminish.
Yeah.
And no one wants to watch that.
No,
I'm not going to watch
they don't.
single A ball on television.
Right.
No.
Right. It's a good question. Good question. One I don't necessarily have an answer for. I think what you'd see is maybe you'd probably see the league cannibalize itself. So you may have some, I think MLB has 32 teams that may go from 32 to 28 to 25. I don't think in the next 50 years you'll get rid of it, but it may decrease. You may be in a situation where in some markets you don't have access. You may have to do it via pay-per-view. You may see sponsorships worn on the sleeve. Baseball has kind of stayed away from that, right? You might see that. You might see that in the future. I think we're in the next 10, 20 years, you're probably going to see that with MLB. You can see it now on some teams. Some teams, you can see it. Not all. So I don't know, but good question.
Well, Terry, I want one more question about baseball, and then we're going to go to break.
Okay.
And the question is, and this is all about why this sport is dying.
Okay.
Here's everything you said, I agree with. But here's the other thing that I would throw out there, and I want to know your thoughts.
Okay.
I think the National Football League, the NFL today, it's like the best game on television ever.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
It's incredible. You get a perfect view of the ball. You got the commentators. You have the yellow line. You see where they have to go. You have instant replay. It is fantastic. Okay. I think live football, this is just my opinion. I want to hear your thoughts, Terry. I love the crowd. I love the tailgate. But actually being at a football game, unless you're really high up on the 50-yard line, I usually have no idea what the hell just happened. Yeah. When you're on the 15-yard line and you're looking at a play on the other side of the field, you're like, did he just lose 10 yards or did he just get a first down? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Versus baseball, I think, is an incredible sport in person. I love the camaraderie, having a hot dog, having a beer, talking to your friend next to you. But man, baseball on television is interesting as paint. Watching paint dry. Right? Yeah. And so as more and more revenue is coming from television rights and less from actual in the stadium, I think that also puts baseball at a huge disadvantage. What do you think?
I would agree with you. I agree with you 100%. It's funny. My brother's just a diehard Falcons fan. I went to a game with him this past season, the last game of the season. And to your point, Alex, so they have a jumbotron, right? Yeah. So when the teams on the other end of the field, on the opposing teams, when they're down there on the end, you have to look up at the jumbotron, and then when they're down where you are, you have to look at the field. And I kept getting confused. Like, wait, do I look up? Do I look down?
That's assuming it's not too close.
Correct.
Correct. Sometimes you're too close to the field, and then you're like looking up almost.
Correct. With football, it really is all about the vantage point. It really is. Yeah. Whereas with baseball, because it's a more open, it's the field seems to be wider. From any seat, you can enjoy it. From any vantage point, you can enjoy it. And I think I'm not going to say there's more crowd participation at a baseball game, but there are more traditions. The seventh inning, take me out to the ballpark, the seventh inning stretch. The waves, certain things. Yeah. It's more of a communal experience, I would say, than NFL. And to your point, when other teams are on, unless they're just really exciting, unless it's the Braves, I really don't watch it. You know what I mean? I'll watch the highlights.
But you would watch a random football game.
I would. I would. As a matter
Yeah,
of
who
fact,
wouldn't?
right. I
It's
this
fun.
past year I bought the direct TV package or whatever. So
Yeah, the Sunday ticket.
it is fun. It is fun. Yeah, it is.
Versus the MLB, whatever the equivalent of
That I never get. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
the MLB ticket, whatever,
Right.
they
Correct.
practically give it away. Now,
Right.
if you have T-Mobile, they'll give it to you. If you have, they're just trying to get people to watch the game.
Yeah.
Versus the NFL Sunday
Yeah.
ticket, it's like $400 a year, and people will gladly pay it. That shows you the difference. And TV revenue, advertising is where all the money is coming in.
Didn't YouTube just
They acquired the NFL rights.
Yeah.
For a couple $1 billion, they acquired the rights.
Yeah. So
well, and I thought that was kind of funny because I noticed there was a lot of fans who were all kind of up in arms, like, why is Google charging this much money? And it's like, because they paid a ton.
Mm-hmm.
What do you expect? And they know they can get it. I mean, you think about
it. Right. People will pay it, right?
Well, and it's interesting too because, Alex and I know we've talked about like the price of like your average NFL ticket versus your average baseball ticket, right? NFL tickets, they go for a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And even if like you figure, okay, to Alex's point, okay, for the price of 2 tickets, reasonable tickets, I can actually get like probably the best view in the stadium on TV. I can watch it where I want to. I don't even have to go through security.
Mm-hmm.
I can watch it anywhere.
I can rewind plays.
Right.
I can rewind
Why wouldn't I?
Oh, and by the way, in the middle, during a commercial break, I can flip over to another game.
There you go.
Right.
There you go. Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's interesting because I think with baseball, there isn't, I don't think there's quite the same sense of urgency either. No. Right? Because of how the game is played.
There's also just too many games, 162
games. Right.
No one even cares what's going on until August. I don't.
Yeah.
Right. Baseball is like every day. So, I mean, if I miss one here, big deal. I'll just watch it tomorrow. Whereas football is like, there is a sense of urgency because it's once a week. You know what I mean? And you look forward to it. You know what I mean? If your team wins on Sunday, on Monday, you're talking about with your friends and fans. With me, I'm talking about it with both my brothers. Man, did you see that?
And I know on Tuesday you're talking about me with work too.
There you go.
Not only that, though, it's also a ritual. What I mean by that is I have friends who text me on Fridays or Saturdays and go, hey, what are you doing for the Bills game? Right? And what they mean by that is, am I making wings? Am I cooking something? Am I going to a Buffalo Bills bar in the city? There's a as opposed to, hey, you know what? It is 2:00. I'll put the game.
It's a whole culture or subculture, however you want to look at it. But it's a communal thing, right? Like, I'll tell you how bad my brother is. So we have watched the 2012 NFC Championship and the Falcons lost, and we watched the 2016 Super Bowl.
And we don't talk about
that. Yeah. And my brother was like, you know what? I'm never coming to your house again and watch another playoffs game because we lost both times, right? And I agreed with him. I was like, you're right. We're bad together. So now if we watch a game, he's got to be in a totally different location than I am, right? Which is silly. I mean, obviously we know we didn't have any impact on the game, but it's a part of the culture. It's something that we do every year. At the start of the year, and my brother's hilarious, right? So my brother would be like the kind of guy, your team has 1% chance of winning, and he'd be like, so you're saying there's a chance, that guy, right? So
yes.
Every year, right, without fail, we look at the schedule and we pick out how many wins, and every year, without fail, he's like, "Oh, we're going 16-0. We're going 17-0." I'm like, "Bro, come on, calm down, right? Calm down." No, man, we're going 17-0. As a matter of fact, it's my fault that we don't get it because I don't believe, right? We don't get it, right? Because my brother, he's deep, man. He's deep into it. But to your point, yes. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Terry.
No. To your point, it's just it's a routine. It's a way of life. You know what I mean? every Sunday after the Falcons game, my brother will call me and we will recap what happened. And if they lost, we're cursing some folks out. That so and so did so and so. How could he do that? I hate him. And if they won, it's like, oh man, it was great. Da 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 da. So it's a whole thing. That's a whole thing.
Well, and to your point there too, and I know we're gonna have to go to a break in a second, but I think part of that too is superstition, right?
Oh yeah,
superstition and sports definitely go hand in hand.
I was just gonna say, we have to go to break, Terry. But when we come back, I want to kick things off with what are your superstitions before games. I'll share mine, Ron. You share yours. Okay. And then I also want to get into a little bit of what would have happened if this would have happened. As opposed to isn't that fun? I mean, I want to talk about that. And I think that's something your podcast is going to delve into.
Yes.
And I want to talk about that with you as well. So we will be right back with Between Two Studs.
Looking forward to it.
Hey everyone, Ron here, and I want to take a quick moment to thank you for being a listener. But one thing I'd ask, if you're able to do so, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could give us a review of our podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or join our Discord server. We'd greatly appreciate it. And we'll be posting a link to our Discord server in today's episode. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to Between Two Studs. We are hanging out with the awesome Mr. Terry Wilson. We just covered a lot of ground talking about sports. And we ended the segment. We were talking about superstitions. We were talking about, making sporting events an event, right? It's not just the game. It is everything encompassing. What are you making? What are you eating? What are you wearing?
Yes. So
Terry, let's talk about superstitions. Because you mentioned it earlier, like the whole, don't watch an important game with your brother. We know, every sane human being knows that there's no way that what I'm doing is influencing Josh Allen.
Yep.
Like I know that here, and I'm pointing to my head for anyone listening to the audio. But I somehow my heart here, it's like I know somehow if I take a shot of that at that time, that's gonna give him energy. Like it's insane, but we do it. So Terry, talk about your superstitions.
Okay, I'm not as bad as my brother because my brother, I love my brother, and I talk my brother a lot. I love him, but geez, man.
Well, I want to hear some of your brothers.
Okay. Okay. So number one, we cannot watch playoff games together ever.
Yeah.
And ever, never again.
And that's all. That's all Atlanta sports.
Falcons, right? Because
just Falcons.
So the dynamic of Atlanta fandom, very few folks are actually all Braves, Falcons, Hawks, Bulldogs. There's usually some combination. He's a Lakers fan, which he likes the Hawks, but he's a Lakers fan, whatever. So the passion that he has is probably going to be Braves and Falcons. But in that, right, if he wears a jersey and they lose, and my brother has a plethora of jerseys going back years, but if he wears a jersey and they lose, he's not wearing that jersey again. He's not wearing that jersey again. It's got to go. If he consumes a dish, and I'm kind of like this too, right? Like if it's a big game and we served, I don't know, meatloaf, not that you would, but for the purposes of this example, let's say you did and we lose bad, we're never donning that again.
No more meatloaf.
No more. Yeah. No more. The day before a game, I can't say any curse words. I don't know why. I cannot say any curse words.
Whoa. This is the most fascinating thing I've heard for superstitions. So if the game is on a Sunday, it's the Falcons.
Yes.
You have decided on Saturday, no shits.
No shits. No dams. None of that. None of it.
What's the origin? What's the origin of that?
You know what? I don't know. It was probably some sort of tirade I went on about. I think it was a game where the Falcons should have beat this team by 30. And they ended up getting destroyed. And the day before that, I think I went on this tirade about something. And I was like, you know what? Never again. I'm not doing it. I don't even know what we were talking about, but I know I went on this tapestry of profanity that heretofore has never been seen before. It was like, and it was some combos too. It was great.
Oh,
I don't know what I was
nice.
talking about. It was,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know what I mean?
The adjectives and the verbs.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. The whole
Yeah.
9 yards. And the next day, like, we got destroyed, and I was like, okay, I'm not doing
No
that.
more.
So the day before, like the Saturday, I'm a choir boy. Nothing.
Now, do you ever slip up and then all of a sudden you're like, we're losing tomorrow?
Of course. Of
Yeah.
course.
Mhm.
Of
And
course.
you
But
usually lose the next day?
no, not at all. But in my, in my mind, you know what I mean? So there are also
Yeah.
countermeasures, right? It's how ridiculous I am with it. They're countermeasures. So if you do it, right, and you take a drink, you just got to throw it over your shoulder and it
Yeah. It's like the
it
salt
cancels it
sense.
out. Right. I
Yeah,
know it's
yeah.
ridiculous. I know it's ridiculous. But I swear
No.
to you,
We
I
all
do
do
it. I
it,
know it's
Terry.
ridiculous.
We all do
I know
it.
it is.
Yeah.
I know it's ridiculous. You know what I mean? I know it is, but I don't. And the last thing, you do not, like, if somebody's on a streak, oh my God, he hasn't dropped the pass, you don't comment on it. I mean, I think that's universal. I think everybody does that. Oh, he hasn't given up a run and whatever. And oh God, now you just jinxed it.
The
So we
game
don't
is
we
not
don't do
over
that.
until it's over. Then you
There
can
you-
comment. Yeah.
Hello, 2016. Yes.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are some of my quirks. My brother's very interesting. Like I say, he probably has about 30 Falcons jerseys going back years.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone that they lose, that jersey will never see the light of day. And if you know about, like, these jerseys, they're not cheap.
No.
They're not cheap, like $100 and something bucks. You know what I mean? But he doesn't, and he recycles every year. You know, I've reached the point. You know, I have 2 kids in college. I just get a Falcon shirt and call it a day, man. I'm not, doing 500, 600, 700 a season for 5 different. I'm not doing that. You know what I mean?
No.
And more power. Hey, look, I'm not judging anybody who does.
Whatever
Good for you.
works.
Whatever works.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because, hey, if you told me at the beginning of the season if I'd spend $600 on 6 jerseys, we'd win the Super Bowl, I would do it.
Oh,
absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah.
I'd probably.
Speaking of what works for you, Ron, what are your superstitions? I think you've talked about a couple of them on this show.
Yeah, we talked about a little bit. So there's one that I need to talk about, and I'm really worried and anxious about this one because I haven't really talked about it before. So the one is, and Alex, you have to give me like some credence on this one. So one is whiskey, right? So what I've found is sometimes the secret magic to get things going is a little bit of whiskey. Now, it's weird. I've got in my head all sorts of rules that don't make any sense, but in some level with the head, they make sense, where it's like, okay, I need whiskey for the offense or whiskey for the defense, and then I hydrate with the other. I don't know how it quite works out. It basically involves me justifying drinking, but that's that.
But you'll be strict. You'll be like, I'm only drinking on the offense, and it's usually around like the second or third quarter when you're like, all right, Josh Allen needs a little bit of a boost.
Yeah, we need a little bit of getting going. Yeah.
And you know what? The Bills went 13-3 this past year, 13-4. So
you know,
is
it just whiskey? Is it just whiskey?
Just whiskey.
Okay.
Now I've played around with different whiskeys. I think the one that I've had the best luck with is Wild Turkey. I do like Buffalo Trace, but Wild Turkey seems to be the best. So I don't know, but the one that I'm very scared of that I haven't admitted yet that I this is where I'm conflicted. So I got to talk about this one. I don't think I can watch a live Super Bowl game.
What?
Now hear me out. Buffalo, I watched all 4 of them live. What happened to them? Okay, now Eagles, they went to the Super Bowl and they lost the first time. They went a second time, and I said, I'm not going to watch the game. I'm not going to watch the game.
And they won.
What happens? They won.
They won. Wow.
Third time, this past season, I was pulling for the Eagles because, I used to live in Delaware, and I think there is a certain level of connection with the Eagles. I'm more of a Bills fan, obviously.
Okay.
And I watched the game. And guess what happened? And the Eagles were looking very good. They were looking very good. And then what happened? So I'm like, now here's the problem. So if the Bills did go to the Super Bowl this year, I'm not sure I could watch it live. Like I'd have to wait until afterwards to be like, okay, now I can watch it.
What are you gonna do?
That's what I don't know. I'm scared about the possibility because I don't want to jinx them.
Well,
but I feel
if
like
they lost because of you, I'd be mad.
Right. So I think I'm just gonna sit there and just like do radio silence. And
you're gonna DVR it. You're gonna
right?
DVR it. Oh wow!
I mean, don't get me wrong. If they did win it, I would watch that probably on repeat for about a week straight.
Amen. Amen.
But I don't know what to do. Like, what are your thoughts? Like, both of you. I'm curious.
I mean, well, number one, you probably gonna have to turn your phone off because if they do win, everybody's calling. It's gonna be no surprise.
Listen,
everyone on Earth is watching that game.
Right.
You would have to find a hotel room,
and
just
cover
radio silence
and sit in a corner with nothing. You couldn't have You couldn't have the TV on. You couldn't have your phone on.
No
you
room
just have
service.
to sit in silence. Oh yeah,
right.
You got room service.
No
room
service.
The game?
Yeah,
oh,
no room service.
No,
right. You'd have to. Yeah.
Well, and I feel like too. I've already mapped this out in my head with my brother and my dad. We would be in Buffalo.
Yeah.
But I think I would probably be stuck in the room somewhere or stuck in a cemetery somewhere, being like, well, I don't know. We'll see how it works. Okay, the game's probably over. I guess I'll turn my phone on. Yippee, we won.
Oh, boy.
I don't know.
I mean, you know what?
Now,
first and foremost, that's a commitment, man.
I'll say
that's a commitment. That's
if it worked, everyone would be.
Yeah.
People would owe me something. I mean,
they would.
Right?
They'd be indebted to you. They'd be
I'd
indebted
be like,
to you.
you took it. You took one for the team.
Yeah, definitely. No, that would be more than one.
Superstitions are weird, though.
That'd be more than one.
I did not know, Ron. You never told me this tradition, and it's one of those things where I see myself in South Buffalo in the Irish neighborhood, which is where our grandfather grew up, and I envision watching the game with you, the Super Bowl, but at a bar. But if it means that we're gonna lose, yeah, you can sit out. You can go sit in a home.
I'm honestly getting goosebumps right now talking about it. So I don't know. I feel really conflicted.
I'll come get you after the game. If I'm completely naked, it means we won.
I mean, no, so here's the weird part, right? Like when the Eagles won, I legit did not watch the game. I didn't watch the game at all. I just said, you know what? I've got bad juju with watching the game live for the team I'm pulling for. So I don't know. I feel like I've had a weird confessional thing now. I'm conflicted.
I can't tell you you're wrong. Right? That's the thing about superstitions.
Superstitions are so weird.
Right.
I don't know. That might be true, man. You might be cursed when you watch live Super Bowls.
It's possible. All right.
That's a lot to give. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't know, man. Like that's tough. That's because I mean, think about it. Like the Braves went to other World Series between 95 and 2021. We should have beat the Yankees. We definitely should have beat the Twins, although that happened before. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's that's a tough
superstition.
One. That's a tough one.
You feel it here.
That's a tough one. I get it. I mean, again, nothing's more silly than mine, but
right.
I don't know, man. I don't know
if it does happen. I don't think I'm going to watch it.
We'll have to have a long conversation.
You will have to have a long conversation because what if they don't make it back again, right? So the other side of that is, what if you don't watch it and they don't win and they don't make it back for like another 5-10 years? Like, you know what I mean?
Here's the deal. I think, Ron, if you don't watch it and they lose,
the curse is broken. I don't have to worry about it.
You've debunked the theory.
Yeah.
Well, so here's the deal. I think if you that is better than you watching it and they lose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're gonna feel terrible. And if you watch it and they lose, terrible.
Right.
Optimal is you don't watch it and they win.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. Right?
Yeah.
If you don't watch it and they win, emotionally for you, are you gonna be as excited? Like, are you
Oh,
gonna be like,
yeah.
holy God, man, it was great.
I think as long as you're in Buffalo, you will be.
I will totally be in Buffalo.
Okay.
I think I've already subscribed. To this. I'm probably it's going to be January or February. No, it'll be February.
February.
It'll be probably below freezing in Buffalo.
Snow.
I'm probably going to go streaking.
It's
probably going to happen
for sure.
And you know what? I think at that point, I'm probably going to have to play catch up on alcohol pretty quickly to keep warm, because another thing about alcohol, for people that don't know, is I think it's antifreeze for the blood, right?
Something like that, Ron.
Something like that. So I'm going to have to play like catch up, and I'm going to be like Alex and my dad. They're going to be like, hey, we won. And I'm going to be like, I'll just.
Ron, there's nothing that says you can't. There's nothing that says you can't drink while you're by yourself, not watching the game.
I'll have to listen to the cheers of all the people in Buffalo cheering in the background to like.
You'll know when to come downstairs.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what? I have this, like, for me.
Yeah.
The best part of the Falcons winning the Super Bowl would be my kids would be right there, because they know how I feel about it. To a certain extent, they've suffered with me, and I'm not going to lie, man. Tears are going to be flowing along with liquor. Copious amounts of liquor, but I'm probably going to cry. Like, I'm probably going to cry, tell a whole bunch of people I love them. It was worth it. William Andrews, this is for you. Michael Vick, like, it's going to be like an experience, man. And I just can't imagine, like, not watching the game. Like, that would be like.
But I think for a Bills fan, and I don't mean this in a different way.
I don't take it that way. Yeah.
As a Bills fan, it's not about the game. It's
about winning.
It's about Western New York not feeling like a loser.
Right. Yeah. And respect.
There is this
and respect.
We've talked about this in a previous episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Western New York has always been the butt of a joke. If it's not a sports joke about losing 4 Super Bowls, it's a weather joke.
Yeah.
And so to me, winning the Super Bowl is not about, hey, we won the Lombardi Trophy. It is, hey, you know what? Buffalo is no longer the laughing stock. They earn the nation's respect.
Yeah, put some respect on my name, buddy. Well, that's what it is. Yeah. Agreed 100%. But I just wow, man, that would I don't know that I could not watch the Falcons win. I honestly,
right?
No, but knowing what I know now about Ron, I love my brother Ron to death. But if I found, now that I know that, and he watched the game with me and we lost, I'm going to be angry with you.
Right? Well, so here's the weird part, Terry. So, like, Alex has been out with me where I've done my superstitions with drinking. And Alex, what happens when they work? What happens in general? Do they work or not work?
It usually works.
Okay. Yeah.
So
there's credit. There's credence to your theory, is what you're saying.
I don't like it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like an excuse to drink, but like, you know, it's weird. It helps generally, though.
You know what,
Alex? We got to hear about your because I've divulged enough, and I'm concerned about myself.
So mine are less, probably less severe than both yours. But I will say that. Well, Anna thinks this first one is my primary one. She thinks it's kind of gross, but whatever. Terry, it's the opposite of your brother. I will get one jersey every season,
and you wear it. Yeah,
and I will not wash it.
I love it. I love it.
Around week 6, there's some like nacho cheese stains. By week 9, there's like some buffalo sauce, and and then what I do is at the end of the season, I dry clean it, I put it in my closet, and I, for the most part, never wear it again because I'll get a new one at the beginning of the new season, and I will wear that all 17 games.
That's fanhood right there, man. That's thank you. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
Number 2, it's still clothing. I caught myself a few times when we lost. I will not wear any article of clothing, including underwear or socks, that reflect the other team's colors.
That's deep. Wow, that's deep.
Last year I wasn't paying attention. Week 3 against the Miami Dolphins, I had orange underwear on. And
wow.
I didn't even notice till that night. I was taking my pants off, and I went, "This is why we lost."
You know what's weird? So we had another guest who brought that up. Do you remember which guest that was?
Was it Taylor or Ruben?
No, I almost want to say it was your friend in Buffalo, Eric.
Eric Thomas.
I almost want to say Eric brought that up.
Okay, maybe I stole that from him subconsciously.
And you know what's been crazy is ever since he mentioned that, now like I'm almost like self-conscious when I like wear my jersey and I wear my shorts and all that. I'm like
undershirt of the jersey,
right?
All that.
I'm like, okay, do I have any of the other team's colors?
I never thought of that, but that's pretty good. I never thought of that. Like that's that's taking it to a whole nother level, man.
And the third and final thing that I do, and it's not actually a superstition. It's more just a character. It's a character. You could call it a character flaw about me. I'm not sure. Terry, when the Bills play, I am so nervous. Doesn't matter. We could be up 50 points to nothing. Doesn't matter. I am nervous, and Hannah will say I'm pacing the house. And I start cleaning. I actually start cleaning the house, the kitchen, in between plays because I need to do something. But the biggest thing is I can't eat. I lose my appetite.
You're so nervous.
I can't get anything down. So what do, Terry? Is I eat right before the game. So when I'm talking about all my food stains. It's not from the game. It's from before the game.
The pregame.
So before the game, I'm housing stuff down. Because I know I'm not eating for the next 3 hours. I can drink beer, but I just can't. I'm too nervous.
Yeah. Now, you know what? I do pace from time to time. With Atlanta being in the fourth quarter, I do pace. Oh, my God, I pace. And the other thing is, like, I typically watch the games up in my office. And like if we're winning in the fourth quarter, I'll go downstairs because my oldest daughter will come over. So Mariah will come over every Sunday, right? But again, it's a superstition thing. I just watch it up here until I'm sure the game is in hand, and then I go down there. And if we're getting killed, I just go down there after the game, right? But I pace. So fourth quarter, I'm up here like what? And they hear me because I'm kind of big, so they hear me pacing back and forth, and my wife is like, "Oh, it must be the fourth quarter again." So that makes perfect sense. That's actually not bad as far as superstitions go. That's
Ron's
not bad.
got the weirdest.
That's not bad.
I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, well, truth be known, there was another one I forgot to mention. So typically, Alex, you know this one. When the Bills score a touchdown, I will turn on the shout song, and I will do my own little dance down here, and I will yell the song. And thankfully, down in the basement, for the most part, because of all the insulation in that, my wife and daughter won't be forced to hear it. But they hate it. They both hate the shout song. But, hey, it goes into the tradition. It's a tradition. I'm not sure that's a superstition. It's a tradition.
That's a Buffalo Bills thing because they do that every time they score. Every time they score. And at all the Bills bars that I've been to, they do the same thing then as well. They do the same thing. So that is right in line with the fandom of the Bills.
Yeah.
Hey, so that was interesting, Terry.
Yeah. Let's shift topics a little bit.
We got more to talk about.
Right. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about, Terry, is about specifically the Pro Bowl, right? Because like I think we've talked a lot about the NFL right now.
Yep.
And for all of our European listeners, which I'm still surprised, we've got a lot of European listeners. The American Football League, NFL, National Football League, we're talking about, obviously, one of the big things is they get so many things right. But the thing that I'm still surprised about is the Pro Bowl. And I know you and I have talked about the Pro Bowl where, here you are. It's supposed to be the best of the best getting together to play against each other. But there's a lot of reasons why that's not the real story, and there's a lot of reasons why it's not necessarily as popular as it should be. Terry, tell us a little bit about that, and what are your thoughts about that?
Well, as a Falcons fan, I've experienced the Pro Bowl for the past 6 years because my team obviously hasn't been back to the Super Bowl since we won't mention. But I think it's kind of anticlimactic in the way that it's right after the conference championships and right before the Super Bowl. And so there's an innate sense of failure attributed to it because the only reason players for your team are playing is because they're not in the Super Bowl. So I, for one, feel like the schedule and the timing of it is just, I'm not going to say it's wrong, but it's antiquated, right? We just went to a 17-game season. How about either in the middle of the season, the beginning, whenever, we install a second bye and it's the Pro Bowl game? You know what I mean?
And I bet you the NFL players would be in favor of that because it gives them one extra. If you're not competing in that game,
it gives you one extra week. One extra week. I think the reason they wouldn't do it is because if you make a Pro Bowl, then you for contract purposes, maybe that's another feather in your cap. But I just think from a fan perspective and from a fan experience, it's a lot more fun if it's not the week before the Super Bowl, because the week before the Super Bowl, I'm really preparing for the Super Bowl. Like, I'm getting chips and getting this and getting that, and we're stocking up and whatever. And I'm just not thinking about the Pro Bowl at all. I don't care. Another thing that could make it interesting is, okay, let's take away some benefits from it. So whichever league wins the Super Bowl, maybe they get the ball first, second half. Maybe.
I was going to bring something like that up too, because a lot of so the problem for me with the Pro Bowl is you can tell the players don't care.
Right.
It's not only that the fans don't care because it's the weird timing before the Super Bowl, but it's that the players don't care. And so I look at, listen, this is one thing I think Major League Baseball has right, which is they do the same thing, Ron. Their best AL players versus their best NL players. It's called the All-Star Game. And the winner of the All-Star Game, that league gets the seventh game. The home team gets the seventh game in the event of a World Series seventh game. Meaning, hey, the AL beats the NL in the All-Star Game. Then in the World Series, the AL team is guaranteed the seventh game if there is one. There is actually significance. So the only thing that I could think of. So Terry, you brought up the who gets the ball first. Maybe, and maybe this would be impossible because of logistics of planning for the Super Bowl. But maybe there's two venues picked. There's an AFC venue and an NFC venue. And the venue if they play in the middle of the season,
venue that wins,
week 8. If week 8 the AFC beats the NFC in the Pro Bowl, then the AFC stadium hosts the Super Bowl.
Gets the Super Bowl.
And here's the deal: even if you're not that AFC team, you have more familiarity playing against AFC stadiums than you do NFC stadiums. Right. You only play the NFC every 4 years. Versus the AFC, you're generally going to be playing. I think it's every 2 years you're almost guaranteed to play every other AFC team. So more frequently you're playing against those other stadiums. So you already have venues. That advantage as well. So not to mention you're hoping your team might be the one that's hosting the World Series or hosting the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl. And from a fan standpoint, it's not the week before the Super Bowl, so you're vested in it. You're like, and if think about it, if there's no football that week, what else are you going to watch, right? So you got to get your football Jones on. You have to satiate that appetite. That's the only way you're going to do it, as opposed to at the end of the year when okay, my team has no way. Think about it. If your team just lost in the last seconds of the AFC Championship, you don't want to watch the Pro Bowl because emotionally you hurt. You're hurt. Yeah. You know what I mean? You don't even want to see football until the Super Bowl. So
how about this?
I just think
How about this? I'm just thinking of a whole nother idea up top, because the biggest thing to me is you got to make incentive. You got to have incentive. What if the winner of the Pro Bowl, AFC versus NFC. Time for the NFL draft that following year. If there's two teams that went 3-13, one is an NFC team and one is an AFC team. The AFC team is higher up on ties.
I like that. I'm just thinking. I like that a lot.
You gotta have a reason to incentivize these players to play.
Yeah. Yep. I like that a lot. I do. I think that might be one of the best.
We're writing the commissioner tomorrow.
I like that. Seriously, I like that. I like that a lot.
That's smart. I like that too.
I do.
Because I feel like that would it addresses the whole, as a fan, why should I care about this game?
Right.
Right. You get something more than just a weird kind of bragging, right? Like, I mean, Terry or Alex, do either of you know over the past 5 years, has the AFC or the NFC won the
I have
Pro
no
Bowls?
idea.
I don't even know who won the most recent.
I have no idea.
Right?
The last one was flag, right? Was the last one flag, or is
I think
the last two maybe? I don't know. But you see what I mean? Like, Alex and Terry, and don't get me wrong, like, I'm an NFL fan, but I would say both of you are much more sports fans than I am. But if both of you, who are really invested in the NFL, do not know, what does that say about the Pro Bowl and the consequences?
Yeah, nobody cares.
And as Alex said, the All-Star game for, the baseball league, right? They get it right because there is consequence and there is a certain level of prestige. But I think that's one of the hard parts too, at the timing of that, the time of the year too, is that, like, Terry and I know prior to recording this episode, you and I had a really good conversation about this specific topic. But one of the problems that I think that players have too is, anytime you're an NFL player and you go out on the field, there is the risk of injury. And that's one of the reasons why they said, let's go toward flag football, which I think it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But the timing of the year also basically says, like, hey, I could be the Pro Bowl, player, but it just so happens that my team's going to the Super Bowl next week.
Yeah.
I'm not going. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. But then you're not really getting the best of the best either, which is another problem. It's kind of like a crappy consolation prize. So it's like, hey, the team that's going to the Super Bowl, they're going, and you're second in line. And then they've even had issues with that, where there's players who are like, well, you stubbed me for number one, so why would I want to go? Right.
And I just think, where we are at this point in 2023, it's not the same kind of world as it was in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. It's just not. It was an honor to go to the Pro Bowl 70s, 80s, 90s. And not that it's not an honor now, but I think we are, as human beings, we are more myopic in our viewpoints and our thought process. And what am I getting out of this? Okay, I'm going to the Pro Bowl, but there's the risk of injury and then, as opposed to, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, okay, you represent your team and you go and you do whatever, and it's a different world, right?
Right.
So, I just think we got to do something, even if it's after the Super Bowl,
Right.
Because maybe after, again, we're kind of starved for the content, and you can still have the same incentive. You can still have if you win, you get this draft pick. You can still incentivize it. But just the timing of it it's brutal. Emotionally, it's brutal if your team just lost in the AFC or NFC championship.
Right.
You know what I mean? It is brutal. So,
it's like the crappiest consolation prize to be like, well, you've got 3 or 4 players there, and you're like, why would I feel happy about that? I didn't get to the big game.
Right. I mean, think about it. 30 seconds left, and you're like, we're not going. Oh, but
nope.
There's a Pro Bowl next week. Well,
that's a good consolation prize. Thank goodness all of our players can go and represent our team.
Right.
Whew. I was worried I'd have to sweat that one.
Right.
No.
Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No. So, agreed.
So, in the same vein of this, talking about rule changes, ways to make the games better. Terry, I don't care. Pick any sport. What is a change to the rule that you think would make the game better? Because throughout history, I mean, all of a sudden, it wasn't until the early 80s we had the 3-point line. I mean, evolution of games have happened a lot. And I think, generally speaking, they're for the best. So you tell me, what do you think is a sport that lacks a rule change that you have?
I don't know. For me, we'll keep it football. I think you should be able to challenge a roughing the passer call, because I think a lot of times I know you can't touch the quarterback's head, and I get it, but a lot of these calls are just, oh, you touched him, oh, you that, and it really impacts the game, right? And it shouldn't impact the game. Falcons lost a game last year. I forget who the opponent was, but Grady Jarrett sacked him and barely grazed his helmet, and they called a 15-yard penalty, and that was the game. Right. So, if we had the ability to challenge that from a football perspective, I think that would be pretty good. Baseball, I think they're pretty good on their challenges. Same thing with the NBA. So yeah, for me, that one roughing the passer, because that can change a game. That can really change a game.
I'd go one step further. I think you should be able to challenge literally anything in the NFL. But it's the standard. You get the 2, and only if you're right do you get the 3rd. It's not like you can get a 4th or a 5th. So when you run out, you run out. But we've all seen so many flagrant penalties that completely ruin the game. So I agree with that. So I have 2 rule changes that I suggest to the NFL for Roger Goodell, who's listening. First,
Roger, this is for you.
First, I think if you're a kicker and you doink, that should be a point. Think about, Terry, if you kick a field goal, the odds that you're ever going to hit you're going to hit a doink, you're going to hit the crossbar, astronomically low, right? But it happens. And so I say you hit. You
get 1 instead of 3.
1.
Yeah.
But if it goes in, you get 3 as well. So here's the deal. If you double doinked, and it went in, that's 5, Ron. Good math.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
If you triple doinked and it went in, that's 6 points. Now here's the deal, Terry.
Yeah. Has it ever triple doinked though?
Hold it.
I don't even think a double doink. I don't even think a double doink has ever happened in the NFL.
Oh, don't say that to Chicago fans. Chicago Bear fans, we lost that in the playoffs.
Ding, ding.
We lost to a double doink. It was a double doink and it didn't go in.
Double doinked and went in? It went in or didn't go in?
No.
It didn't go in. Okay. But
it didn't go in. I would say that's 2 points.
Okay.
I'm saying you get points. So you get points from a doink.
Every time the ball hits the upright.
But if it goes in, then you get 3 additional on top of the doink.
Okay.
So in the case, and here's the thing. Here's why I like it, Terry. Let's say sometimes you're on like the 1 yard line, and you go for it on 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and you're just like, man, just couldn't bounce it. You couldn't get it in. So oftentimes people are like, I'm going for it on 4th down. What if you said, hey, kicker, let's try to hit the doink and get it in. Let's get 4 points. Try to do a double doink.
Yeah.
And guess what? All of a sudden, it changes the whole dynamic of the kicking game.
It does.
Right.
Well, not only the kicking game, it changes the complexity of the game, because now maybe you don't have to get a touchdown. Maybe if you're 4 points down,
a doink and a field goal is
a doink and a field goal. There you go. Yeah. So it not only changes the field goal, it does change scenario-based football. So I'm for it. Number one, a double doink that goes in.
5.
I don't know that I've ever seen that. What? If I'm being honest with you.
No, I haven't seen it either. But I've seen
like
a doink
double
go
doink.
In.
Yeah,
right.
I feel like a double doink that goes in. We'll call it a touchdown. That's 7 points. That's 7 points. I mean, why not? It's never going to happen. I've never seen that. I'm with
you, Terry. I think double doink it in. That seems like that should be 7 points.
That's 7 points.
Listen, I disagree there. I think a doink is 1 point. But here's the deal: I've seen this in college, and it was like AAA or Division III. But
How long of a field goal was it? How long of a field goal was it?
I don't know.
Like, was
but
it 30, 40 yards or what?
I don't, something like that. But it doinked, then it hit the crossbar, then it doinked again, and then it went in. I'd say, you know what? That's 6 points. God bless you.
I feel like because of the degree of difficulty, you might as well call that a touchdown.
But so here's my problem, Terry. Okay, so if a double doink in a success is a touchdown, what's a triple? What's a quadruple? And it goes in. Do you get more, or is it just to say the same?
Physically impossible. That's
that's not true. It is not physically impossible.
That would be an act of God. Like look, I'm just saying. I mean, that's
turn it to 2 touchdowns at that point if you get three doinks.
See, that's too crazy, Mr. Roger Goodell. I'm saying 1 point per doink. That's what I'm saying.
All right, 1 point per doink. Hey. I could get on board with that. That's still. I think that would be good though, just because how many times do you see a doink happen, and it's just like even if it's out.
Well, that's the beauty. Even if they hit the upright and it's out, hey, it's still 1 point.
That's 1 point. They at least got something.
That. I'm good with that. I'm good with that too. Everything you said. It's just that I feel like you are.
If you got 2,
you're good.
2 should be it,
dude. You're gonna see 3 Falcons Super Bowl victories before you see a double doink field goal. The probability of to intentionally do that, bro.
Intentionally no. I don't think. But you know what? If you're on the 1 yard line, I think you could do it.
You could probably do it, but again, you're talking about a double doink and going in, right? So you got
some weird physics.
You got it right. You got to hit it, and then it's either
without going forward enough to hit the upright again.
Listen, I'm telling you right now.
No.
All of a sudden, kickers are going to be trying.
It's like that Maddox and Glavin commercial. Chicks dig the long ball. Like, dude, kickers are gonna be studs now, man. Kickers are gonna be, give them 7 points. They take enough anyway. Give them 7 points.
I'll take anything.
If they got 2,
double doink and it goes in, bro.
That just feels like pinball. You go 3 or more. That's like to kick it. To be going forward, right? To hit the upright and then to come down, knock it again, and then knock it in, like
bro.
I'm just telling you,
you've got divine intervention there to make that work.
No, I'm telling you right now, both of you go on YouTube tonight after this recording and type in double doinks. You're gonna see it. It happens.
Double doinks that score though. I'm not talking about just double doinks.
You'll see it. It happens.
Okay,
I gotta see this, bro.
It happens. I'll tell you this: it happens more often than the Falcons winning 3 Super Bowls.
You would be right about that. Hey, you would be right about that. You would be right. Unfortunately, you would be right about that. But I just,
more of the story. We're all on the same page. Doinks should count for something, right?
They should.
Yeah,
but
I'd agree.
I just think if in an NFL game. If you're telling me in an NFL game, Falcons get it down to the 20, and we're like, you know what? Here's what I want you to do, cool. I want you to hit it on the left sidebar, then hit it on the right.
And then hit the crossbar.
Man, look.
Yeah. And you could do it? Like, I'd love to meet the kicker who could do that.
Bro, I'm getting a cool jersey tomorrow. What? What do you no?
Right?
No.
I'll get a Bass jersey.
So not only does this make the game more interesting, but all of a sudden kickers are now celebrities. Win-win for everyone.
Kickers are studs now. What are you talking about? I mean, think about it, dude. You're down by. Oh, hey. Oh my God. Sorry, we're still going, honey. Okay, sorry. My wife came up here and scared of it.
She was very excited about the double.
Oh my God. Yeah, she was. Oh my God. Whoa. Sorry, guys. Just headed that out.
It's all good.
Sorry. Oh my God!
All right. So Terry, I know you probably got to leave some, but I got one other idea.
All right, what you got?
And the XFL, I haven't watched any games this season, but I think the XFL has adopted this because I'm not the one who came up with this, but it's brilliant.
Okay. All right.
The player that you want when push comes to shove, your highest paid player almost on every team is your quarterback. Why is it that when late in the game you're down by 2 touchdowns, we rely on an onside kick, which has a less than an 8% chance of conversion. That's stupid.
Okay.
What you should do is automatically, you want to go for it. You put yourself in 4th and 15 with your offense. On now where you would normally kick off, right? So basically, if you don't convert, just like an onside kick, you're giving the team a huge advantage of
with
their
field
position. They're already in field goal range. So it's a massive risk, but your odds, and I've looked into this, the odds of converting an onside kick is about 8%. The odds of converting a 4th and 15 is like 19%. It's still low, but it's way better than. And by the way, just the look of it, when you watch an onside kick, you're like, this is a weird setup,
goofy play.
It's weird looking. And to be honest with you, I think the game would be much more interesting if, hey, that team that's down by 30 points can do onside kicks. The conversion rate's a little bit higher. Maybe they have a really good quarterback. And it makes the fourth quarter when you have these blowouts a little bit more interesting.
I'm for it. I'm for it. Yeah, I don't have an issue with it. Because again, if you suck on offense, you're probably if you don't have any receivers, you just run the ball. But to your point, at least you have a chance, right? Like my brother said, you're saying there's a chance. It looks like you have a 7% increase at
whatever it is, right?
Continuing that. I don't have an issue with it. I'm for it. I think it'd be fun.
Roger, it's unanimous. We all
there you go.
Yeah, we've agreed.
There you go.
If you're watching the show, obviously.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey man.
Well, I would agree with that. I would agree with that too. I mean, you see them go and kick it. It just kind of like there's something that I think the team just goes through to kick it. It's like, well, we lost our attempt, and 4th and 15. Okay, the odds are still stacked against us, but you know what? We're still going to fight.
You got a shot, right? You got a better shot. You definitely have a better shot, and hey, you never know. You get the 4th and 15, you get on a roll, and there you go. Especially if it's a 2-score game, and now there's 30 seconds left, and you get that 4th and 15, it becomes a whole lot more interesting. So, hey man, anything to advance the game, I'm for it. I think it's a great idea. To be honest with you, tonight, the only thing I'm going to be thinking about is double doinks and field goals. So thank you, Alex. Because now I'm going to be like, oh my God, again, I can't get past it. I've never seen that in the NFL, right? But to intentionally do that, I'm voting for that kicker for president.
I know.
Come on, man.
Well, good news, Alex and Terry. I think we've got the title for this episode. Double doinks and field goals.
Exactly.
That's a good title, right?
Exactly. Yes. And they should be 7 points. I don't care what Alex says. That should be.
I'm with 7 points.
That should be 7 points.
That's a miracle that you've accomplished out there.
I call it 5, but hey, you know what? I'll take either one.
I've never seen that. I've never that would be awesome. That would be awesome. Can you imagine that? That? Like we're down by 7 and oh God, they got this stiff defense. We can't do anything. You know what?
Boom,
We've never seen this before, but 2 is going for it.
Points.
Oh my God. Oh my God. You know what? I probably would douse myself with this beer. What are you talking about, man? That'd be insane. That would be, I'm for it. I'm for it, Alex. I'm for it.
All right,
fair
enough. Hey, so Terry, we're running out of time, and I certainly know that you have a podcast where you're going to talk about all these fun things. So there's 2 questions I have.
Yes.
I got one what if scenario for you.
Okay.
And then I want to hear more about the podcast and timeline on it and when people can expect this from you and how people can stay in touch with you.
Gotcha.
The one what if scenario, because I know this is going to be a big part of your show. The one what if scenario, and I'm stealing this from Ron.
Okay.
I totally am stealing this. Ron thought of this.
Gotcha.
Michael Jordan, I'm in Chicago right now.
Okay.
He won 3 championships, as we all know. Then there's all the conspiracy theories why he took that year off. We've all heard it.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter. He came back, three-peated again, right?
Yep.
And without a doubt, greatest basketball player of all time. Okay, a couple people say LeBron, but come on. This guy won 6 championships. LeBron's not won 6. Okay. Give you that whole background. To say, what if when he came back after the original three-peat, he was just meh, just okay. What would that have meant not only for his career, but to be honest with you, the NBA? Because he took the NBA to that next level.
He did. I think it would definitely impact his legacy. I think the NBA, I think they still get to where they are, but it takes longer. It definitely takes longer, no doubt about it. I think where you see the most impact is as far as the GOAT or greatest of all time conversation. I think it takes him out of it in your top 5 and maybe he's in your top 10. You know, the running argument that I have with my son is it's Jordan, and he's like, no, it's LeBron, and it's not even close. And I found that to be generational. But if Jordan and the other part to what you said, whatever final Jordan went to, he never failed. He won. He won all 6, right? Yeah. That's a lot, because not a lot of people can say that. I can't think of any
6-0. No.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody that was undefeated, right? I know Bill Russell won 10 or 11, but I don't know that he was undefeated. He could have been. I don't know. But it definitely takes away from that legacy. It probably takes away from the Jordan brand. So is Nike, the impact of Nike and the Jordan brand, are they where they are today without those post whatever career championships when he came back? You know, is it the same? I mean, Nike probably would have gotten to where they did, but maybe not.
Not as quickly, that's for sure. I mean, they were always, I mean, when they started, they were bottom feeders compared to like Adidas, and Jordan is what put Nike on the Nike's what put or Jordan's what put Nike on the map.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, it's interesting. I don't know. I think the greatest thing the impact would probably be his legacy, then the NBA, and then probably Nike in that order. But you know, again, my son feels like it's a mixture of Kobe, LeBron, and Jordan. I feel like Jordan was the greatest just because I saw Jordan come up, and I feel like if Jordan had to play in the rules of today, he'd score 50 a night. Like, you can't touch anybody now. He'd be putting up He'd be putting up 50. You know what I mean? But if Kobe and LeBron had to go back in time and play against Bill Laimbeer and those
it was a way rougher game.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
It was fun. It was fun watching the I'm blanking on the name of it. The documentary that they just did.
On Netflix. Gotcha.
Yeah.
With the Bulls.
The one on the whole story of the Bulls. And it's like, I forgot because I was a young kid, and it's like how defensive Rodman was playing. You're like, you could never do that today, right? Like,
no, not at all. Yeah. And Rodman wasn't even the worst. The worst team was the Detroit Pistons with Bill Laimbeer. Was that Dennis Rodman? What that other guy's name? I can't think of it, but they were murderers. I mean, they would elbow, they would clothesline. Like, hey, you probably want to bring some gauze pads because it was going to be bloody, you know. And the Knicks, and it was a different league. You could do way more from a defensive standpoint if you put the Warriors, and I love the Warriors, right? But if you put them 80s rules against the Knicks in 6. Knicks in 6.
And that goes back as a call out to one of our guests that actually came on the show, Stuart Gray, who really was, you know, some of the violent things that he was telling us about that he went through. And he was a big guy. He's literally a giant, right? And he played in the 80s, right? And
he's playing for the Pistons, and he was talking about losing teeth and all sorts of stuff.
Right, he had teeth that got into his arm, and very violent game. But you're right, the game has changed a ton. Since then.
Yeah, I mean, it's more finesse now, right? It is.
Right.
I mean, again, a part of when Karl Malone, and you can go back and watch this. When Karl Malone would go up for a rebound, he would come down, boom, boom. And you know what that is? That means whoever's around, you're getting it. You're getting some of this Karl Malone chicken.
Stay away.
Because right. It was documented, right? You don't have that now. If anybody who does that tomorrow, they're not only get kicked out of that game. They're probably not going to be they're not going to be in the playoffs for 3 games. I mean, you know what I mean? And for Detroit, that was like a nightly thing. I literally cannot think of this guy's name, and I'm mad. But between him and Rick Mahorn, thank you, God, Rick Mahorn, they played the Hawks one day, and Dominique went to the hole, and Dominique just disappeared. And Dominique is a big man, okay? Dominique just it was just like you just saw this wall of just 1, 2, bam, from both ways. And no foul, nothing was called, and no, it's just again. And Jordan, because I have this argument with my son all the time. He's like, "Well, LeBron played for 18 years. LeBron played for 18 years in today's climate. There's no way.
Oh, he wouldn't make it 18 years.
Oh no, no. So yeah, you know what I mean. It's all about the era that you played in. But yeah, I think What If's a fun game. I definitely don't think Jordan and specifically Nike, I don't think they get to the heights that they have gotten to without him winning those post-3 championships. That's the takeaway.
Yeah, I agree. So Terry, how do we stay in touch with you? What's the story? What's the timeline? For anyone listening who's like, this is my jam, I want to listen to more with Terry, how do we keep in touch with you?
Okay, well, I am in the process of putting the podcast together and the details. For now, you can email me at TWIL, that's TWIL, newman@gmail.com. And stay tuned to that for further events and everything that's going on. And yeah, I will get the details out as
and please
they come
give
along.
it to us. We will promote it on our show, and we're excited to listen to episodes with Terry. Do you have a name for the show yet?
No, I don't.
Okay. you can steal the double doinks and field goals.
That is a good name.
Look, I love it. But here's the thing, right? Like if I do that, you guys have to come on the show to explain it.
Well, of course we would.
It's not gonna have relevance without it. Okay.
We'd love to.
That's a definite possibility. Maybe 2 doinks at ATL.com. I don't know. I'll have to think about it, but
it'll be good.
You've given me something to think about, really. To be honest with you, like that's a fascinating idea. I think the first thing I'm gonna do is Google that, because I don't believe I've ever personally seen that. I've never seen that. Like I've seen doinks. Yeah. I've seen double doinks. I've never seen a double doink that went in. Like that's bro. Play the lottery that night. If that's your team, play the lottery that night. So you've definitely given me some homework, Alex. Guys, thank you for having me. From the bottom of my heart, I appreciate it. It has been fun. I would love to do it again. I'm definitely going to have you guys on my show. And yeah, man, it was a blast. So there you go.
And for our audiences listening today, so one of the things that I think you all know is that we sometimes have a little bit of a latency between our episode once it records and when it actually ends up in reality. So if Terry does have his episodes out and his new podcast launched by that point, we will actually update in our show information so you can kind of link to it and see for yourself. So it'll be great, and it'll be right there for you.
Yeah, Terry, we are so thrilled that you were on the show tonight. We can't wait for your own show. And with that, we're going to call it quits. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.